Welcome, guys, to the first ever video of the Codcast Podcast. I am the host, Niko from the Havoc gaming community. I'm here with the co-host, Brandon, who is the owner of Havoc. How are you doing, sir?
Pretty good, pretty good. Glad to be here. Hey, what's going on, guys?
Happy to hear that, man. So yeah, this is the first episode. I guess you could call it the pilot of the Codcast Podcast. Um, Basically, we're gonna be talking about the Call of Duty community. Sometimes we'll steer off a little bit from that, maybe go into what's going on in the world. Not so much into politics. We don't want to be that sort of podcast, but yeah, you know what? Let's go ahead and get this started.
Let's go.
First question of the day: what are your thoughts on Cold War when it was first released to where it is now?
So I think they've done a lot since it released. Of course, the beta, the alpha, the beta, the release. A lot of people were questionable at the beginning, especially even with the release too. People were kind of iffy. Took a lot of people away from the game, and they didn't even give it a second chance. I think a lot of people, like I said, didn't like it at first. I didn't like it at first. The movements coming off, and of course, what you're basing that off of is Modern Warfare 2019, right? So you're not accepting the movements. You're not accepting the gameplay.
Right.
Maps are different. A different setup, not for 5v5 competitive. It's 4v4 competitive. A lot of things have changed, but I think where it's at now, it's somewhere where we can work with. It's got a lot more integrations with different gameplays and different maps. They brought, as you see in the background, they brought in a lot of familiar maps. They made the game a little bit more likable. So I think it's come strides. It's nowhere near. I wouldn't even put it in the top 10 of Call of Duty's all time, just because I don't think it's fair to say that it was, but I think it's a lot better than what it was at the beginning. What
Right.
about you?
Yeah, you know, speaking from a competitive standpoint, when I was focused more on competitive in the Modern Warfare scenario, I had to totally agree with you. Uh, I don't even know if you remember, dude. Like in the beginning, when first Cold War came out, I just could not understand the movement. I just was not, I was not performing at all like what I was supposed to be doing. So it took me a bit to get used to. As far as the competitive side, I have to say there was a lot of potential. And by potential, I mean this could have been one of the greater Call of Duties. I just think that they got a little carried away with banning certain guns. Certain GAs, a couple of guns were overpowered and they never took the time to nerf it. And to this day, there's multiple guns that are still overpowered. And to come out with a playlist such as League Play, to follow up, I remember during the season, people were saying that this League Play competitive playlist is going to be similar to Black Ops 2. And in my opinion, that's far from the case. In League Play, let's start with bans. If you were to leave the game, you had to sit out for like half an hour. It was a grind to make sure that you wouldn't rage quit. But that's just my opinion. I think it
Yeah.
had a lot of potential, like you said. Not a top 10 Call of Duty. I have to agree with that. And hopefully the next Call of Duty, which I believe is World War II Vanguard, if I'm not mistaken, uh,
Right.
can outperform this Call of Duty.
I
Um,
want to touch on something you said. You mentioned about guns and a lot of the GAs. I was talking to one of my friends, and they were speaking on Warzone. That's all I play is Warzone. And of course, as you know, as if anyone is watching, listening, knows about Warzone, you have two sets of guns that you can add. You can play with Modern Warfare guns. You can play with Black Ops guns. You can do a hybrid. So, what's the big argument of like how Warzone's been since this game has came out? Is there's been more problems on Warzone since this game's came out, and the reason is the guns because there's no balance. When you were playing comp on Modern Warfare, a lot of the guns shared the same damage, the same ADS. It was very similar how everything reacted because they spent a lot of time balancing out the weapons, so there was a variety.
100%.
On Yeah, and on Cold War, if it comes down from the DMR, if we go through the new guns that are coming out, those are the bigger reasons of people getting frustrated with Call of Duty, not just Black Ops, but Warzone because of Black Ops. So I think the guns is one of the biggest reasons people are straying away from this game is you have to either conform and run that gun to even try to be successful in Warzone or Cold War. And you're seeing the same thing time and time again. Every new update, every new patch, which is normal for games and normal for FPS to have patches and stuff. But it feels like, particularly this game, has had more game, not gameplay glitches, but gunplay glitches, where the guns are not performing how they should be on a balanced set. So I think that's a really good thing that you pointed out.
Couldn't agree more. All right, let's go to the next question. Do you think the next Call of Duty is the correct move towards success? Well, we kind of already touched up a bit about that. You know how the competitive aspect, the league play side, we asked for something, we were given something else. I think that the World War II next Call of Duty was not the correct move. I think they should have stuck with Advanced Warfare as the rumors began, towards the beginning of the season. Um, it was actually the other day. I was literally watching crazy clips from UMG Anaheim on Advanced Warfare 2, and it brought back a lot of memories of how fun that game was. It was the first Call of Duty ever to implement the jetpack system. You get to fly around, and although the movement wasn't super smooth, such as Black Ops 2 with the jetpack, it was the first of its kind. It was a great idea to implement that, and it still had a border of staying away from the Halo side because I know they have jetpacks in that too.
Sure,
So I think that the World War II was not a good move. I don't think that the previous World War II game that was made just didn't perform as well, and I think it's
sure,
even under Cold War on the ranking list. But
right.
what are your thoughts, Brandon?
Yeah, so World War II was probably one of the worst Call of Duties of all time. Now, that being said, it's like you just said, it's kind of lining up with Cold War in terms of the ranking. So here's a good thing. Here's our bright side. We're not going to get what we wanted. We're not going to get a remastered. We're not going to get a continuation of one of the franchises that we would like. We're not going to get a Ghost 2 even. We're going to get a game that is World War II Vanguard. So with this, here's a couple things to point out. First, I hope that they had, and this is an assumption, I hope they had the ear to the ground and they listened to the community, because they know that World War II flopped in terms of performance of overall rating. If they listen to people, they're going to be able to correct the things that were not up to par. If you look at Battlefield games, now I know it's more open world and it's different, but the mechanics and the guns, it's the same stuff, but why is Battlefield such a higher performing thing in terms of combat and movement versus World War II did? So they need to look at that. And of course, the third point is they're starting from a great perspective. They're starting from a game that a lot of people have not liked, Cold War. So I think there's a lot of upside, and I will say we'll see. I'm not going to make an assumption of how it's going to turn out. We'll see. It could be the greatest Call of Duty of all time. We don't know. So because we don't know how they're going to integrate stuff, we don't know how things are going to do. It could be the fall of Call of Duty. Who knows?
Right.
But I think particularly we just have to see how they respond to the community. If they listen to us, then maybe they're going to make it a really good game. So we'll see.
All right, and the next question we got here is, will Call of Duty ever have the same feeling back in the Black Ops 2 days?
You know, start this. You need to start this.
You know what? I'll take over from this one just because that was pretty much when I was younger. I was not allowed to play any other Call of Duties, and I only had Modern Warfare 2. And when I finally could get another game, it was Black Ops 2, which was, in my opinion, one of the best Call of Duty games ever made. Probably number one. I would
That's a
put out
very popular opinion
I
too.
would put out there for sure. Um, but the feeling, I don't think so. Like you said, maybe this next Call of Duty could be the best, Call of Duty game ever created. But I don't think we're ever gonna get that nostalgic feeling of, when you were younger. It's just being younger, and you were on with your friends. In that type of game, you were able to mess around while you're playing the game, and everybody can tag along. There wouldn't be any frustration or focus on like, hey, we gotta win the game. I think that's what we've steered towards these newer Call of Duties, and just focus on winning and not so much, and just having fun. And I think what that has to do with that is, the skill-based matchmaking. That's a whole nother topic that, we can get into, and how that's really changed the way you play Call of Duty. You're going against people who are just about the same certain skill level as you, and it's kind of frustrating because all you have to do now is try and try and try. So I think with that feeling, if we get rid of the skill-based matchmaking, I think that can open up a lot of doors to getting us near towards that feeling. But like I said, I just don't think that we're gonna get to that final feeling.
Like you said, we'll touch on SBMM, but based on what you said, you hit on the point I was going to bring up is nostalgia. Not only that the most because we got to speak on future generations as well, and how they approach Call of Duty. Because if I was 13, 14, 15, and I first Call of Duty I get my hands on this Cold War, I'm very upset. But if we were very we had the luxury of going through the Modern Warfare, the early Modern Warfares and the early Black Ops. We had that, luxury. But in terms of what will bring back that feeling, the nostalgia feeling, no. So get rid of that. That's not happening. But I can't say that about future generations. Maybe, one of these games will have that same feeling on them. But here's the thing that makes games memorable. I look back at the game that just came out 2 years ago or 1 year ago, Modern Warfare 2019. That was a great game to me. I liked it. I loved it.
I
It
agree.
had it had a lot of things that a lot of times, they've done right in the past. They have they didn't have SBMM. They had a lot of different ways you can work. They have very balanced guns. You could have you had games, and as we'll course, go into this next topic. They had games where you can go maybe 17 and 15, and it was very competitive. And then there's games where you'll go 48 and 7 just
Yeah.
because this is the lobby that you're in. You're not going to be stuck in a continuous path of having to try so hard
Right.
just to get a couple of reps in. But I mean, we look back at games that had such a cultural impact. You have Warzone. Why is Warzone was so fun at the beginning? It's still fun, but why did it have such an impact? Because it was different. You have
Right.
Battle Royale Fortnite. Right when that came out, that was the game of the year.
Yeah.
That
For
like
two,
I
three
know
years, I would consider it game of the year.
yeah, like people clown on Fortnite now just because it's kind of run the same path as Call of Duty has it now with the SBMM. But you have games that you have Battlefield One, you have Modern Warfare Two, you have Black Ops Two. They brought a different dynamic, so it's not like you were going to play the same game the next year or something that you played something different. You felt something different. It was also random. There's so many random events that can happen when you don't have skill-based matchmaking. You don't know what to expect, and I think that's fun. When it's random, it's fun. You you're caught off guard because you're not going into a lobby saying because like if we go into a lobby right now on league play with the Cold War, who people don't know with league play, you're pretty much matched up with the same tiers of people that you're currently ranked at. So if we go into a lobby and there's a lot of masters, a lot of elites, and you are also in that category, you're gonna feel like, all right, time to get to work. But if you go into a lobby, say you're a master, you're an elite, and you go into a lobby with a bunch of competitors or people that aren't even ranked, you already know the outcome, which takes the fun out of it. It takes the fun out of the game. So I think a lot of the successes of the past, it was random and you didn't know what to expect.
Right. And let me cut in here with that. I like that you brought up that good point. League play. Once again, it's a competitive playlist. I believe that's where you need to have, SBMMM. Uh, it needs to be in that playlist. There shouldn't be in it for pubs. So one of these days we'll touch up a little more on SBMM. We're running down to a minute here. It's crazy how time flies. I mean, it's been 16 minutes. I feel like we've been sitting here for 5 minutes. Uh,
All right.
we'll go. Let's see. Let's go one more question here. What are your thoughts on the change in competitive from what it used to be, which was 5v5 in Modern Warfare, to now 4v4? And how would you say this affects your roster decisions?
Very selective. So of course, you have the obvious stuff is you have to have one less person, which makes things a lot different. So I think you have to focus more in the past with 5v5 you can have hybrid players because people that can cover the people that know competitive they can cover the AR. They can be they're flex. They can be, pretty much they're flexes. So they're able to cover all boundaries. They can play OBJ, they can run an AR, they can be main, they can be second, they can be Slayer. With 5v5, that's a little bit more comparable. But with 4v4, it's very position based. You have to have people that are experts at certain things. If you have a bunch of flexes, it doesn't go well with the
Right.
gameplay that you can run. I mean, of course, all players are good, but you need to have more expert players. So that's something that I would look at.
Nice. You put it very well there. I have to agree. I think that the change from the 5v5 to 4v4, not only do you need elite players, but it's also brought a weight, released off your shoulders, knowing there's not another person around the corner. Sorry, another two people or two persons around the corner when you just kill somebody else. So it gives you and your team a little more time to negotiate and structure, maybe a route or a plan, or just having comms in general. It's able to be a little more focused on strategy rather than just setting three people down one lane, and they'll just destroy the whole team. So I really think that it was a good move on their part for the 4v4. As far as the roster decisions, what can you do? You got to just really perform if you're already on a team. Like I was back in the beginning. We really had to try hard out there to, be selected to be the starting four for our team. So I really think that it was a good move, and I think that with the change of dropping somebody, to now have a more structured team for the 4v4 setting, I think that leaves even more room open to join other teams. A lot of these
Mhm.
teams are creating and starting from the bottom, and they're gonna need all these extra players that are getting dropped from the Switch to maybe create a brand new good team. Running down here on 50 seconds, or no, that thing's frozen. Whoops. So we can either end it here or we can keep it going. I mean, it's up to you. We've done this for 18 minutes now so far.
Yeah, I mean, I like this conversation so far. We've talked about, we've gotten in a little bit with the game itself and where we think it's headed in terms of the whole branch as Call of Duty is. So maybe let's phase it this way. Uh, what is your thoughts? I'm just gonna get a little crazy here. What are your thoughts on how kill streaks are now implemented within the competitive?
So I'm a little on board and off board with that. So when I was playing Black Ops 2 in the competitive league play, the streaks were allowed. And back in the day, I believe the streaks in general were allowed, ever since it had to have been Modern Warfare. Yeah, when Modern Warfare came, once again, it was another change. You can only run your perks. You could get specialists, I believe, in my opinion. It was only strictly just a gun battle, and I think there are certain days when I play that the streaks annoy me, but at the end of the day, I think it was a good move that they added back the streaks. It not only made it more of a grind to just try and get your streaks, but more of a fear now. If you were, let's say, maybe you're ahead 20 points, in a hard point, and you suddenly realize, hey, the other team has streaks. That really changes the game now. Maybe the power's in the other team's hands, considering they have the threat of using the kill streaks to make a comeback from that hardpoint game and win. So I think all around, it was a great idea to bring that back, and I think they should keep it for the long run, in my opinion.
I agree. Momentum can change just like that. I mean, I played with you. I experienced it. I've watched it. You'll you'll feel it even if it's like a game like Control, like we're watching in the background. You could have 4 lives left, and the enemy has 10, but you have you have streaks. It's a whole new dynamic. Momentum changes. The team plays scared. You get ability to be more confident. So I agree. Streaks are something that you can have in your back pocket and change the game just like that. So very good.
Well said. All right. Well, thank you to all the people who have been watching. Thank you, Brandon, for being on the stream. We'll probably go into the next one as soon as possible.
For sure. Thanks, guys.